Did you know that in addition to robbing a patient of memories, Alzheimer's affects the patient's vision? I didn't know that. So there I was, well past midnight, lying on the stone-cold kitchen floor, afraid to move, calling for my husband. Moments later, there he was, standing over me, his foot just inches from my outstretched hand, calling into space, "Where are you? Where are you?" You're listening to My Spouse Has Dementia, a podcast that uses personal stories, occasional interviews, and simple rituals to support dementia caregiving spouses. I'm Zita Christian, writer, life cycle celebrant, and caregiver. My husband has Alzheimer's, late stage. This is episode number 5. One night, a few years ago, I dozed off in the living room while watching something on television. Dick had gone upstairs to bed a few hours earlier. It was after midnight when I woke up. I would have gone straight to bed, but I hadn't cleaned up the kitchen after dinner, and I didn't want to wake up to a mess in the morning. So I gathered what scraps of energy I had left and lowered my legs from the recliner. I noticed that the shoelace on one of my sneakers had come untied. I thought about fixing it, and that's where my effort ended. I went into the kitchen. There were a few dishes in the sink. I put them in the dishwasher, wiped the counters, bleached the sink, set out a clean dish rag and dish towel, and emptied the trash. I decided to leave the plastic trash bag in the garage until the morning. Now, to get from the garage back into the kitchen, I had to negotiate one step. Just one. On that step, I tripped on my shoelace. And I screamed. To this day, I remember falling forward, feeling that my life was over. I banged my face on a doorknob, my shoulder on a cabinet, one hip and both knees on the stone floor. I think the whole house shook when I landed. For a few seconds, I felt nothing but gratitude. I was still alive. And then the pain hit. I hurt all over, and I was afraid to move, because what if I'd broken a bone? That's when instinct took over, and I cried out for my husband. In an instant, I heard him coming down the stairs. I heard him walking through the living room, into the dining room, and all the while he was calling out, "Where are you?" I yelled back, "I'm by the bathroom door." He didn't know how to use the phone anymore, but if he could get the handset to me, I could call 911. I didn't dwell on how I was going to get him to unlock the front door. Anyway, he came down the hall and stopped abruptly in front of the bathroom door, and again he called out, "Where are you?" How could he not see me? "Down here, down here." I stretched out my arm, my hands, my fingertips. "I'm right down here, on the floor." He stood next to me, frozen. "Dick, honey, look down." My words came with a blend of anger and panic. He looked from side to side, and side to side, and again side to side. The 6 inches between my outstretched fingers and his foot might as well have been a mile. I managed to turn my body towards him just a little, just enough for me to reach out and touch his ankle. He screamed, but he did look down. "Is that you?" he said. "Of course it's me." And he stared. "Why are you down there?" "Because I fell." Now it was his turn for instinct to take over. "Come on," he said, and reached out his arms. "I'll take care of you." He helped me up. Nothing was broken. I took 2 aspirin, grabbed several ice packs from the freezer, and we went upstairs to bed. The next day, half my face was black and blue. My knees were swollen, I was sore all over, and the day after that was worse. But I survived. On our next appointment with the neurology nurse, I told her what had happened. I also told her that Dick and I have regular eye exams. Other than cataracts, his eyes were healthy. The nurse explained that even though my husband's eyes are physically healthy, Alzheimer's causes his brain to distort what he sees. For one thing, his depth perception is off. I mean, way off. He'll walk over to his recliner, but instead of sitting on the chair, he sits on the arm. I can't always catch him in time, and that's when he slides onto the floor. Riding in the car can be challenging, especially when I'm pulling into a parking space. He's always certain I'm about to hit the car parked next to us. He can no longer recognize common items in our home. On the coffee table in the living room, I have a big ceramic bird bath I bought from a local potter. Perched on the edge of the bird bath are 2 ceramic chickadees. When I first got it, I would fill the bowl with water and float candles. It was so pretty. Having a live flame is too dangerous now, so the bird bath is not just, a work of art. It's a deep shade of turquoise, and the chickadees are a creamy white. Dick loves birds, so I always kept the bird bath angled so it would appear that the birds were looking at him. Now he touches the little birds as though trying to figure out what they are. Not long ago, he tried to yank them off the bird bath, and when that didn't work, he picked up the bird bath. And this thing is heavy. I mean, very heavy. I've since moved it into the guest room. He thinks the people he sees on television are physically present in our living room. You can imagine how disturbing that can be. When he's awake, we watch safe shows about home renovation, cooking, sometimes a nature show, as long as it isn't about a lion, taking down a gazelle. Watching the news can really be problematic. That's particularly sad because Dick used to be the news director at a radio station in Fresno, California. He worked at a station in Portland, Maine, too. That's where he received an award from the Associated Press for a program in which he interviewed high school students about their views of the future. Anyway, now he'll walk up to the television screen, get almost nose to nose with whoever is anchoring the news, and have a conversation. His words are a hodgepodge of syllables, but I can tell from his inflection that he thinks he's talking to that news anchor. Alzheimer's disease can add shadows to everything the patient sees. It must be like living in dimly lit rooms, wearing glasses that are always smeared. I think that's why Dick often reaches for something on the table or on the floor, but there's nothing there. We have an oriental rug in the living room. Sometimes he'll try to pick up a flower in the pattern of the rug, and he just gets so frustrated. Now, a little aside here. As I mentioned, I like to watch those home renovation shows, and every time I see a designer pick out a busy bathroom floor tile or an intricate kitchen backsplash, I think, oh sure, from a design perspective that vintage or mosaic or geometric pattern might pop. But if a buyer has a family member with dementia, those patterns are a major source of pain. Alzheimer's also takes away a person's peripheral vision. I've been told that the field of vision that's left is about 12 inches, maybe, about as much as you'd see if you were looking through binoculars. So for someone with Alzheimer's, if an object isn't directly in the line of vision, he doesn't see it. Learning that explained Dick's actions the night I tripped on my shoelace and fell on the kitchen floor. It wasn't that he didn't want to see me. He couldn't see me. For an Alzheimer's patient, the field of vision can change in other ways too. This week, in my support group, I talked about how Dick and I went for a walk a few days ago. We didn't get far. He tends to lean forward when he walks, and he's done that for years, but on that day, he leaned forward so far I was afraid he was going to fall on his face. In the group, I was reminded that when we walk, we see a point ahead of us and our body follows. We look straight forward, we walk straight forward. But Alzheimer's changes a person's posture. They don't stand up straight, they lean forward. And as their body tips, their vision tips. I think about all the times I've said to Dick, "Watch where you're going." And on that walk we took a few days ago, he leaned forward and moved faster than ever before. I yelled, "Slow down." He was out of control. He was tilting like a tower, about to fall. I had to grab his arm to make him stop. And then there's the problem with reflections. The first time I walked past the bathroom and saw Dick talking to himself in the mirror, I thought he was being his usual funny self, and I stopped to listen. He said, "Hello, my name is Richard Christian." It sounded innocent enough, but as weeks and months went by, the tone of the conversation changed. Dick, you have to understand, needs assistance to use the bathroom. Having a strange man in the room upsets him, and understandably so. He gets so angry. Sometimes he just refuses to use the toilet, and that's when we have to go to another bathroom. That means going to one of the bathrooms upstairs, where I've already taken the mirror down. Now, so far, we've always made it in time, but just barely. Back in the downstairs bathroom, I finally convinced Dick that if he walked past the mirror really fast, that man in the mirror wouldn't see him. And that worked, until the day he didn't walk fast, and he glared at the mirror, clenched his teeth, and said to me, "He's back, and that old woman is with him." I burst out laughing. So I had my son-in-law Tim take down the big mirror over the dresser in the bedroom and in the bathroom off the bedroom that Dick uses the most. So when we're upstairs, we're safe, most of the time. But you see, my office is upstairs in one of the other bedrooms. And when we moved into this condo 36 years ago, this room was my daughter's bedroom. Before we moved here, she had a much bigger bedroom. So to help ease that transition, I had one of the big walls covered with a giant mirror. So, as you might imagine, I have to keep the office door closed now. But lately, Dick sees his reflection in the windows and in the television screen. And so dust has become my new best friend. All kidding aside, the changes in your spouse's vision can show up in surprising ways. And the changes can be alarming. You need to be prepared. And in the meantime, if you know someone who is caring for a spouse or any family member with dementia, please tell them about this podcast. You'll be doing them a favor, because we caregivers need to stick together. And do take care of yourself. I'm serious. We need to survive. Thanks for listening.